What is going on YouTube? Welcome to a best of 3 1v1 set in between Beastyqt and 1puppypaw. This is the second semifinals of the $1,000 Tanza Memorial Tournament hosted by Chicken Man. I will drop a link down below the video for his Twitch channel, so make sure to check him out. He's also doing some commentary stuff over there, and this is his work. So we're going to be taking a look at the best of 3 over here. By the time you're watching this, the first semifinal should have been uploaded, so you can check out the other semifinals over there, and I will upload the grand finals as well, that being a best of 5. So I don't think I have to introduce Beastyqt to anyone, one of the most active AoE 4 players out there. Whereas on the other side, 1puppypaw is a Canadian player that's pretty solid, especially in team games. He played in AoE 4 Pro League as well. He has had some solid results in some 1v1 events, but he didn't have any like breakthrough performances. He's always solid, but never exceptional. And now this is a smaller tournament, so obviously some of the biggest talent is missing, but still, him making the top 4 is actually pretty decent. He actually defeated Kazva and Lidakor on his way here. So being able to take down Lidakor, a player that played a 4-3 set versus Hera in Winner Stays On just like 1.5 weeks ago or so, is actually a pretty decent performance. Now, just as a reminder, this set is played on the February patch, which means that we don't have animation cancel anymore. We have slightly more expensive scouts, costing 70 food instead of 60. And it also means that we got some additional buffs to Delhi and Abbasids, with the berry gathering rate being faster. This being said, we're going to have on the left side Beasty playing as the French in blue, and on the right side you're going to have 1puppypaw playing as the Mongols in red. Speaking of the Mongols, we already have a double Spearman opening here, something that you can like against the French if you think about it. The French usually have trouble if they can't access gold for a sustained amount of time, and whenever they get to Feudal Age, their first landmark or the first production building will be their landmark. So the first units that you will see from a French player are likely to be knights, so a Spearman opening could be quite devastating against them. Now, this is a quite unlucky spawn for 1puppypaw because the gold mine is at the back of Beast's base. If this was on the front, this would be a lot more dangerous, so it's gonna be difficult to do damage with those spears. And remember that the January patch also nerfed the Mongols, so it's a little more difficult tower rush now. Tower is now costing 100 wood apiece for the Mongols. And of course, the Mongols also start with less wood, so because of that, it's much more difficult to tower rush. Makes me wonder if we're actually going to see that, or we're going to see something different. Looking at 1puppypaw scouting, he actually has no idea about the location of the opponent, so he's sort of just going in blind into this one, which is definitely a source of concern at this point for him. He's going to spot the scout of Beasty, but speaking of Beasty, Beasty has the opportunity to potentially spot the Spearman out here. So you see, especially if the Khan running to the right side, he's going to spot the Spearman. Beasty's reaction is going to be swift, and he's going to pull away his scout over here to avoid harm. 2 more Spearmen are coming out, and this will also be spotted by Beasty. So one thing that you could do with the Spearman, even if you can't pressure the gold mine, is potentially cut your opponent off from the huntables, simply because now it takes much more time to ferry in the carcasses, and your scouts are much slower when they're carrying them, so the Spearman can actually catch up to them and kill them. Looks like Beasty was actually pretty successful gathering sheep underneath his town center, so he doesn't really need to bring in huntables right now. And considering that he has sort of evacuated his gold mine, in fact he even deleted the mining camp, is a sign that he doesn't even want to go for a ton of knights here, and he's likely just going to play with archers, or they made some walls down south over here to limit the movement of those spears, and prevent 1puppypaw from combining his forces at the bottom of his base. Spearman now moving upwards here. For 1puppypaw, there is a chance to get a couple of hits on that scout, and that's exactly what 1puppypaw is looking for. Beasty trying to avoid that, and he's just going to circle around all those spearmen. He actually gets 1 hit on that scout, but the scout is gonna heal back, so not the end of the world at all. You're seeing some more spearmen coming out for 1puppypaw, who is on the way to Feudal Age with the Deer Stones as we speak. He's aging up with 5 villagers on that landmark, but his opponent is already up to Feudal Age in just a couple of seconds. So you're going to see some archers pop out here for Beasty. Although, yeah, he's got the resources for an archer range, so he's gonna go for that. Indeed, first archer range pops out for Beasty. He could still go for a couple of horsemen and eventually go back to the gold mine. But the most important thing here is that he didn't want that gold mine to be burnt down. Now, one of the additional side notes on the February patch is that the Mongol raiding bonus was also reduced. So back on the January patch, you could get 50 gold, 50 food for burning down a building. Now it's only 25-25 by default, so it wouldn't have been as bad for Beastyqt to lose that mining camp, but he wanted to avoid losing it nonetheless. Down south, you're going to have the gold mine of 1puppypaw a little exposed, and the fact that we're seeing him going for a gold mine this early is a sign that he might try to go for a fast castle style approach. This is something that you commonly see from the Mongols. Go aggressive in Dark Age and then just go into Castle Age right away. Now the risk that you're taking over here is that you really didn't do that much damage for 1puppypaw over here with the Spearman. So I'm really unsure if you can actually pull off a Castle Age, but if you're not pulling off a Castle Age here, it makes me wonder why you're even mining gold. You could technically justify it for arrow slits on your towers, you could justify that for blacksmith upgrades, but the reality is that you're already seeing archers pop out from Beasty, so the thing is that Spearmen alone won't hold this. And if you want to go horsemen or archers, you don't need gold. So I'm curious to see why we're seeing gold being mined over here. Indeed, we're going to have arrow slits, but I'm not sure if this is actually a cause or a symptom, really. I'm not sure if the original plan was just to mine gold and he's just utilizing some of that to make arrow slits, or the entire plan was to make defensive towers and play with arrow slits, and that's why he's mining gold. Regardless, at this point it looks like he's just looking to control those huntables, make sure that Beasty cannot ferry those in, but luckily for Beasty, he's got quite a lot of sheep to work with as he is now rebuilding his gold mine to the left of his base. Looks like 1puppypaw is now going for the stable. He's piling up some resources, so if he isn't getting pushed over here, which is a legitimate possibility, then a fast castle is still not out of the question. Archers will now get some hits from that Khan over here, but really minimal damage is done. The hardened Khan doesn't have a ton of firepower. The real power spike for the Khan becomes in Castle Age. In Feudal Age, you have 4 bow damage. Once you get to Castle Age, it turns out to be 12 or 13, so you actually have a much stronger Khan once you get to Castle Age. Really, the one in Feudal Age can't do that much damage. So archers now surrounding this Khan over here. The Khan is actually going to pop the attack speed arrow over here, as 1puppypaw is looking to do some damage on the archers. He is conscious about the fact that he is not going to win this fight, so all he wants to do is just get some arrows in and then disengage. Now his Khan is heavily damaged, and if this knight finds an angle, this Khan could go down over here. The knight coming in with the charge, and the Khan is apparently getting away here. The knight wasn't able to get that charge going, and the Khan is going to be able to retreat. It's going to take quite a lot of arrows to take that knight down, but the most important thing here is that 1puppypaw saves the Khan for the time being. He's actually getting rather close to Castle Age, whereas on the other side, Beasty is still far from there. So you see that if Beasty isn't able to push 1puppypaw here in the foreseeable future, 1puppypaw could actually get to Castle Age and we could see double Lancer production. This is what you usually see from Mongols. Because of the aggression coming towards that gold mine though, 1puppypaw is going to start popping out double Spearmen and double Horsemen. This is something that you want to avoid with the Mongols, but it's sort of necessary right now. Now, the Horsemen don't have the Feudal Age upgrade even, so we'll have to see if 1puppypaw actually does invest into that. He sees the forces of Beasty assembling. He also sees that this is not a scary force right now. 1 damaged knight, a couple of archers, so 1 tower should be able to hold them off, which means that you really don't want to spend your resources on the horseman upgrade. It's going to be good for your safety, so not the end of the world for 1puppypaw to grab that. But the reality is that he doesn't really need it at this point, because this force isn't going to be able to take down 4 spearmen, defensive tower, some more spearmen on the right side. So, 1puppypaw, ready to go into Castle Age over here. He's a little low on the food department. He's got 1 pasture, actually 2 pastures, empowered by the Ovu. But he's going to need a couple more because he's running low on sheep very soon. Meanwhile, let's look at Beasty, who has been moving all the way to the north here for whatever reason. He has actually spotted 2 horsemen moving up north. But his resource bank isn't looking spectacular by any means. So the fact that he's investing into otherwise expensive Royal Knights and he's also going double range archers makes it very difficult for him to get to Castle Age at this point, whereas on the other side, you already see the step redoubt being placed by 1puppypaw. Now, this is the danger that you're facing. This step redoubt is quite open, and this might be Beasty's window to try and jump in and deny, potentially delay it. Ram is going to be placed here by Beasty. He wants to go for a full Feudal Age aggression, and he sees the age up, so he knows that he needs to strike right now. There is no way he catches up in Castle Age timing, So the best thing he can do is go for Feudal at this point, try to deny that age up, and that's exactly what he's going for. Knights are now charging in, trying to get some villager picks over here. The spearmen are mispositioned, so they won't be able to get hits on those knights before they charge in. And indeed, the age up process is going to be halted for the time being. Villagers are being sent back to the gold mine, not the step redoubt. So once again, there is going to be no construction process, and now you're seeing the battering ram appear on the battlefield. The step redoubt is at about 80% completion. You could actually justify grabbing a couple of villagers inside the tower for some extra firepower. The spearmen will brace against the knights, but the archers are moving in. Archers taking down all those spearmen. You need to get this landmark up. You need to get this up because otherwise it is game over. But this landmark is likely going to get denied. It is at 95%. 96, 97, it goes up with all the villagers being taken down. The price was just too high over here for 1puppypaw. All the villagers getting slaughtered nearby. The Khan might even get taken down. And at the end of the day, he's now down to 30 villagers as opposed to 42. And Beasty also has a tremendous army lead at this point. Puppypaw may have underestimated the strength of this push. And he really was just a couple of seconds short from constructing that and finishing it. And then jumping back into the tower. It was close, but the timing of this one was perfect for Beast. This is exactly how you want to time this. You want to make sure that you just stop that, the age up process, and then 1puppypaw is going to be in trouble. The Ovu is now under attack by the battering ram. That's your primary target because that's what is empowering these pastures. And remember that there isn't really a ton of sheep to work with either for 1puppypaw. And if you take down the Ovu, it's also going to make it very difficult for 1puppypaw to go for the double lancers. In fact, our red player doesn't even have gold, and this is a serious concern. As I said, when you get to Castle Age, you want to go double men-at-arms, double lancers. You don't want to go horsemen. You want to go for those Castle Age power units. So the fact that we're seeing Feudal Age horsemen pop out here is a very disturbing sight for 1puppypaw. The blacksmith is being taken down, the Ovu is now on fire, and Beasty's got 2 rams ready to knock on those buildings. He's targeting the barracks right now. There is no sign of counterattacking right now for 1puppypaw. We are seeing a prayer tent being dropped, but at this point, the concern for 1puppypaw is that he's got 4 army on the battlefield, as opposed to unbelievable, well, not really unbelievable, but a quite decent 33. And some of these men-at-arms will perform quite well against these archers, but the numbers advantage is so big for Beasty that he could still take that fight. He's taking down the barracks right now. The pastures are going to get pulled. Barracks also being pulled away as we speak. You gotta be careful because those buildings can be lit on fire very, very easily when they're moving like that. As the knights are swooping in from the north, they take down the 2 horsemen that our red player had. The step redoubt is actually moving all the way to the north, trying to find a safe gold mine. But there's just no way for those villagers ever to get there. And since there's absolutely no army on the battlefield for 1puppypaw, it's even difficult to take down these battering rams. He's going to have to pull the villagers for that. Beasty's got the archers nearby, so he's going to start taking down all the villagers out there. Indeed, a couple of archers hit the field. Beasty will focus on the archers for the time being, will retreat because he's got no tools to deal with those men-at-arms. But the knights are about to jump into this fight. And with that, the advantage will once again swing in the favor of Beasty. 13 army versus 34. Knights now appearing on the battlefield, and there is no direct answer right now from 1puppypaw to those knights. They charge in on the lumberjacks. Lumberjacks will be forced all the way back into the town center, and the archers will just trade arrows with the ones from our red player out here. The knights will deal with the men-at-arms more or less. It looks like for now Beasty is going to call this assault off, but it's probably just for a short amount of time until he regroups and brings back his archers. The rams are ready to push, and he's got the army numbers. He just doesn't want to throw away this army, so he's playing this one cautiously, but really, the moment he charges in here, 1puppypaw stands no chance. We're seeing some more archer ranges popped out here for our red player, but no veteran archer upgrade over here. If you could get a couple of crossbows out and some veteran archers, there might be a glimpse of hope. But keep in mind that there's 53 to 37 villager discrepancy between the 2 players, so there's a considerable advantage right now for Beasty, and you see that he's even going to spot the step redoubt over here. Now the rams are moving in. Beasty charging in with the cavalry. He's going to take down the 2 men-at-arms in front, and the archer numbers being even, plus the knight support of Beasty should be able to push this force back from 1puppypaw behind this one. The rams are taking down the buildings over here. Beasty is still playing this one cautiously, trying to avoid town center fire out here. But the base of 1puppypaw is just being absolutely torn to shreds at this point. Archers once again will start taking down the archers from 1puppypaw. Knights doing a good job absorbing damage. The Khan gets taken down, and the archers now from Beasty moving all the way underneath the town center. Rams setting that prayer tent on fire as well as they are now moving on to the town center. There's just no army over here for 1puppypaw, and indeed he taps out. Game number 1, dominant victory over here for Beasty. Everything originating from the success of that timing push on that gold mining operation. Because with that, Beasty was able to cut off his opponent from gold, cut him off from those valuable, strong Castle Age units, and that's where it all started. The timing on that was perfect. It's a risky timing. If you miss that time window, you will get destroyed by Castle Age units and you're done. If you go too early, your opponent might have enough to hold off your forces, so the timing is very, very crucial, and that was nailed very well over there by Beasty. As I said, since this is a recorded game, we don't have the post-game stats out there. So hang on for a brief moment while I actually bring those up. Game, please, wake up. Game, I know you can't see everything. So hold on. Hold on. Game doesn't want to wake up. Please. Age of Empires. I might need to restart the game over here to show you the stats. Weird. Hopefully it's not a new bug, because spectating is already as trash as it is. So recorded games not appearing appropriately would just make my life even more difficult. Alright, game restart time. We're gonna have to take a look at the second game from a recorded game as well. And I think they are going to start the grand finals in like, what, 20 minutes right now? So what I'm planning is that once I'm done casting this from recorded games, I'm pretty much going to cast those from recorded games, or at least try to catch up as much as possible. Alright, game restarted. So let's hope that now I can show you the stats over here. Beasty leading 1-0 against 1puppypaw. Looking at the career of 1puppypaw, by the way, he actually played in the Winter Championship and he got to the top 16. He got eliminated by Wham, another Canadian player that also had quite a lot of success recently. Also played in some smaller events as well. He actually defeated Wham in the War Chief Club, which is a small tournament hosted by Lidakor, mostly for North American players because the time zones match up with their play times. So this guy has been playing in smaller events. He played in Winter Series as well, Winter Series 1 and 2, even Winter Series 3. He didn't really have a ton of luck because in Winter Series 1, he got knocked out by Vortex in the round of 32s. Winter Series 3, he got knocked out by Marine Lord in the top 16. So he's always getting some very tough opponents out there. Okie dokie, so here are the stats. Game restart actually helped quite a bit over here. Whoops. You shouldn't see that. So, villager count dropping over here. Clear reason why this advantage was so big for Beasty. But the real reason, again, don't look at the colors, because the colors are actually bugged on this screen. So, look at the legend. Beasty is red, 1puppypaw is blue on this chart. The big thing is the gold count for 1puppypaw. He basically had no gold after reaching Castle Age. Normally you would see spikes, so it jumps up and then you spend it on a unit. The fact that it's flat like this is a sign that he had absolutely no gold gathered over here in this period. And that's a very, very bad sign when you want to make expensive Castle Age units. And you see, if you look at the overall gold gathered, it's only 1200. And considering the fact that he had to spend 600 on aging up, you can already see that he basically gathered very minimal gold after getting to Castle Age. Alright, let's jump straight into game number 2 over here. This is going to be on the home map of 1puppypaw, that being Hill and Dale. And we're actually seeing a fairly interesting civilization matchup over here. 1puppypaw is going to be utilizing the Holy Roman Empire. That's no surprise over here. But Beast is going to have the Mongols, a civilization that I'm very keen on to see it on this battlefield, because the Mongols have a lot of appeal on this map. They are actually very good with early aggression, and that's the biggest weakness of the Holy Roman Empire here. The HRE will just suffer so much from early aggression, as we do have on the left side, 1puppypaw, starting off with the Holy Roman Empire in red. He actually opens with a scout before a prelate, so he really wants to grab some extra sheep for himself. before even popping out that prelate. On the other side, you're going to have Beasty coming in with the Mongols, having a bit of a tough time placing that town center. He had his villagers block it for some time, and he's just now building it up. I think this wasn't the initial spot he placed it at. He probably wanted to place it somewhere around over here, but he has moved it all the way here to the edge of the cliff, because this way he's going to have it close to the gold and the wood as well. And it's actually rather close to the berries too, so this is actually a pretty nice spot for Beasty's town center. So looking at the maps real quickly for the players, the relics are fairly evenly distributed, maybe slightly better for Beasty, but really it's going to be about how much the Mongols can do to deny the relics from the HRE. So this is a tricky matchup, because there's a couple of things that we have to talk about. First and foremost is that it's difficult to deny relics from the HRE. Why is it difficult? It's difficult because the Holy Roman Empire can have a very nice fast castle, and once they have knights going, it's difficult to stop those knights from killing your units, and once the knights are out there, it's very difficult to deny the relics. So the best way for Mongols to play this one would be to go very aggressive in Feudal Age. Actually do something similar to what we have seen in the previous game. So Beasty going sort of full Feudal Age aggression, while his opponent is trying to go for that fast castle, semi-fast castle build. Because if you can make a timing push happen, you could knock out 1puppypaw from this game before he really gets to Castle Age and starts picking up relics. Once he's able to get to Castle Age, he's going to have some power units from Castle Age, and it's going to be very difficult to stop him from that point on. Looking at Beasty, he's got an OVU going, and there is a barracks coming in. Indeed, the plan is simple. He wants to go aggressive. Keep in mind that with the Spearman, you could also deny professional scouts, although that will only affect this patch of huntables. This one is likely going to be in the hands of 1puppypaw. It's actually a very nice spot over here. If he places the Akan Chapel somewhere around over here, that should affect the lumberjacks over here, the gold miners, and the food gatherers as well. Looks like a sneaky villager was sent out by Beasty. I wonder if he wanted to wall in his opponent, because when you have so many spearmen out here in Dark Age that the Beasty is gonna have... Actually, never mind. It's my brain melting down. I would love to see opponents being walled in, but that's not something that you can do with Mongols. I totally forgot about that one, as the villager yoinks one sheep from the back of that scout. So, walling in the opponent is not an option. Tower rushing, in theory, is. Now, keep in mind, this is a patch where the Mongols will have more expensive towers, so it's a little more difficult to tower rush. But it's also a patch where the animation cancelling was removed, which means that this scout can no longer just go animation cancel on this villager and do a ton of damage before the spearmen close in. In fact, it's very difficult to defend with the scouts against a push like this. Nice reaction from 1puppypaw here. It's a small section of wall he had to make in the middle, and by making that, he's going to prevent his opponent from breaking in there, but it's going to be a much bigger challenge to make these walls happen here on the north. The Khan is trying its best to get some more damage over here before the villager is able to finish the walls, and the Khan is going to body block the wall foundation over here. Beautiful move. 1puppypaw cancels the entire wall over here. The Khan is the MVP of this game so far, body blocking that wall foundation, and with that the spearmen are able to break in. The tower is coming up right now for Beasty, and that is going to be the lumberjacks being denied. Akan Chapel on the way with 4 villagers for 1puppypaw, and as much as I said that, you know, once the HRE player gets to Castle Age, it's going to be difficult to stop them. If you go for so much Dark Age pressure, this could be very difficult for the HRE to handle, and you see that the barracks needs to be added over here to try and fight this one. And that's already an accomplishment for the Mongols, because they just want to slow down that Feudal Age as much as possible. It looks like villagers will be pulled against the tower, but there is 4 spearmen now out there, 2 scouts also join the party. Villagers, they are just going in kamikaze trying to stop that villager from making that tower. Villager will be pulled away here from Beasty, as the spearman will take some pretty good engagements over here against the villagers. 1puppypaw tries to micro the villagers, so he's pulling back the weak ones as some spearmen appear on the battlefield for him as well. But the influx of reinforcements is just much larger for Beasty than it is for 1puppypaw. So really, the spearman numbers are growing much faster for Beasty than they do for our red player over here. And you see that once again, if you look at the numbers on the battlefield, they just look way better at this point for Beasty. He's at 9 army versus just 1, and that tower is likely going up. He's just not going into Feudal Age with the Deer Stones, but his opponent is in ruins. Look at that. 1puppypaw is housed Half of his eco was idle, he's got basically no resources in the bank, and that's exactly what Beasty wants to accomplish, because remember what I said in the previous game, Mongols love to play this Dark Age pressure into fast castle style build. And I'm fairly certain that this is exactly what we're going to see from Beasty as well. Coming up with another tower over here just to deny the Lumberjacks. Lumberjacks now have to take straggler trees here for 1puppypaw. He's off from gold, not gathering the hunt. So much pressure on his eco, and it's very difficult for him right now to access resources in a very convincing way. Beasty still aging up the feudal age with the deer stones for the time being. The Khan is going to spot the gold miners, but it's going to be difficult to pressure this. Instead, it's possible we're going to see another tower over here right next to this wood line. And for now, we're just waiting for this villager to finish up this tower. Spearmen now moving in on lumberjacks, and you will try to sandwich those spearmen in between yourself, or in between the villagers and the town center over here, just to try to cut off their escape path. The town center is actually able to get some nice shots in there, and we're seeing some men-at-arms reacting to this one from 1puppypaw. I totally forgot that the HRE can make men-at-arms in feudal age, and that's actually a very good response to this, but it's also a very expensive response. So at this point, the moment Beast sees those men-at-arms, he has to realize that there is no more hope of doing damage here on the lumberjacks. And the next part of the plan has to be just going into castle age yourself, because you have set your opponent back quite heavily. Villagers weren't taking the hunt. They were idle for a long time. They had to relocate the wood lines. So much damage done, and if you look at Beast's eco right now, he's piling up resources for castle age. Spearman once again charging in on the wood line, but the men-at-arms should be able to push them away for the time being. Khan will try to do some damage here on those men-at-arms. It looks like another tower will be placed by Beasty, this time around all the way to the outside, and this is going to be difficult to take down for 1puppypaw, because this tower is all the way on the out here, so the only way that he gets out there is if he deletes this wall, or if he walks all the way around. Once again, a Khan is being sent in here by Beasty, just trying to be as annoying as possible. The Khan doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's able to harass those villagers. The Predator will actually be dispatched to heal up those villagers, buying some time for 1puppypaw over here. But once again, his resource bank is looking absolutely terrible. He has been set back so much. So now, for Beasty, the next step is just getting into castle age and then getting into that double night production. Spearmen still standing strong over here. They could be useful to take down horsemen that come out, but really, their usefulness is not major right now. Their best use might be to just garrison the towers at this point, simply because they're heavily damaged, they're just Dark Age Spearmen, and there are men-at-arms around. Men-at-arms are not being pulled to try and take down those towers. Spearmen will react to this one, but the Spearmen will be short-lived against those men-at-arms. They stand no chance over here. They are actually getting surrounded by the men-at-arms. Beautiful fight over here for 1puppypaw. He kills 2 Spearmen before the other 3 were able to jump into the tower. Now the men-at-arms, with all the pierce armor they have, free ranged armor, they should be able to take down this tower. Ideally, you would want to save these men-at-arms and heal them up with a prelate. And actually, they're taking quite a lot of damage. They are taking a lot of damage over here. Now Spearmen are jumping out. Khan is also joining the party over here. Nice micro by Beasty. Once again, as I said, ideally you want to take down as many men-at-arms as you can, because you want to delay that HRE player as much as possible. And the tower still standing strong over here. It's about to be lit on fire, and once that happens, you're going to have the men-at-arms retreat. Indeed, the tower is now on fire. Men-at-arms getting some more hits on the Spearman as one man-at-arms tries to chase down the Khan. Looks like the tower is going to get cleaned up because 1puppypaw wants to get rid of all of those spearmen. He wants to make sure that the tower is taken down so that the spearmen are also going down, but it looks like the spearmen will actually get away because you do have the movement speed popped out for Beasty, so he's going to retreat to the other tower. He's just getting so much value for so little units. Really, he's being so active with these spears, and it was just such a small investment for him, yet it's doing a tremendous amount of damage to the opponent. If you look at the resource bank for 1puppypaw, it's horrendous. The goal is there, but his food eco is nowhere close to where it needs to be to get up to castle age. 30 villagers for him, 32 for Beasty, and Beasty is almost up to castle age. That's exactly the danger of the Mongols on this map. Going for that Dark Age aggression into fast castle is quite difficult to stop with the Holy Roman Empire here. And now, Beasty is likely going to start popping out men-at-arms, I assume. I don't see a stable from him, so it's likely just gonna be men-at-arms. Or maybe just a prayer tent? and picking up the relics with shamans. There's going to be one horseman moving in here from 1puppypaw, but horseman's having a quite low base damage. They are not going to do that much against villagers, at least for the time being. So this guy isn't really a major threat right now for Beasty, and it looks like there are the barracks coming out. Beasty was a little slow building those up. Looks like he may have forgotten about the production buildings. He was up to Castle Age. It looks like we're seeing some spearmen being added here. So he's expecting knights from the opponent. The Khan is still around, and this is the power spike that you're looking for with that Khan. Now in Castle Age, they do 12 damage, so they actually are pretty effective when it comes to killing villagers, and Beasty is just so active with that Khan. The moment he sees the horsemen come out, he's going to move back to the influence radius of this tower, and the moment those forces disengage, this Khan is going to come back. The Khan is denying the berries, so it's actually being used to great effect. And as the hunt is getting depleted, those berries will become more and more impactful. Once again, the horseman will try to charge on the Khan, and you're going to have the tower pushing them away. There is also some spearmen nearby, so if they get close to the tower, you can pop out the spearmen and jump on them. Looks like we're going to have some more horsemen coming out from the south. Spearmen will jump on them, and with that, these horsemen shouldn't be able to do that much. They might actually get one villager killed over here if Puppypaw gets an angle on them, but it doesn't seem likely. Puppypaw is up to Castle Age though, and he sees the barracks, so he's gonna be able to react to this one. And if he starts making his own men-at-arms with the maces upgrade, that's gonna be difficult for the Mongols to deal with, unless they start adding crossbowmen. A monastery is being picked up over here. What is the plan? Does Beasty just want to garrison... Wait a minute. What happens if you move a prayer tent with relics inside? Can you actually move the relics with the prayer tent? If you can, this is a genius idea. I've never actually tested this out, but if that works this way, that could be magic. Villager is trying to block the Khan right now, unsuccessful doing so, and you see the Khan is heading south. Beasty knows exactly that the prelate is going this way, and he just wants to kill that prelate. Prelate being 90 HP against a Khan that has a 12 base damage on the bow. That is actually able to take down the prelate quite effectively, and that's exactly what you're going to see over here. There's going to be an eagle or a falcon popped out for scouting purposes, and the Khan is now moving in to try and get the prelate killed, and it looks like you can indeed garrison into the prayer tent and then move the prayer tent. The first time I'm actually seeing this trick being used, but it's actually very clever. Look at that. The prayer tent is moving around, and as the shaman drops off the relic, you can pick up the relics and move it. I'm not sure if this is even the intended behavior, but it seems to work, and it's actually a very clever way of doing this because it guarantees that these horsemen have no chance of intercepting your shaman. You see this relic, or this prayer tent already has one relic inside. You pick up the second one, and you can pack up the shop and just move towards the next one. It's actually very clever because you eliminate one of the biggest problems when it comes to gathering relics. That being bringing back the relics. Looks like you are going to have Puppypaw getting away with one of those relics. Looking at his Ragnitz Cathedral, he's got 0 right now in there, and there is 2 more relics up north. So, Beasty has 2, his opponent is going to have at least 1, potentially a second one out here. Those forces are growing in numbers, and now you see some men-at-arms and accompanied by some knights. Some of the knights being heavily damaged, also some Landsknecht that are appearing on the battlefield. Beasty hasn't really been making army up until now, but now we're seeing some more spearmen come in, and we're also getting the veterancy upgrade for them. Looks like Khan is once again going to join the party. Will try its best to deal with the infantry units. Remember, these are just feudal age men-at-arms as opposed to castle age ones from Beasty. So those will win that fight without any major issues, and the Khan is actually able to push these away. As I said, the power spike between the feudal age and castle age Khan is quite massive. The castle age Khan is a force to deal with, and it's actually very difficult to deal with. 300 HP and 12 base damage being able to shoot while moving is actually very scary, and it can sort of act on its own. Prayer tent now moving up here, you are going to have relic number 3, and in a prayer tent you can garrison up to 20 relics, so you can sort of just collect everything here in your moving shop. The slowest part of this equation really is that shaman catching up with you. So you see, there is no shaman nearby. Okay, now he's arriving over here. Worst case scenario, you could just make a new shaman if he's taking his time going back. But you garrison it in, and you pick up the shop, go all the way back there. That's going to be 4 relics for Beasty. And when you're fighting against the HRE, you want to get to 4 relics. If you get to 4, you will have 400 gold per minute from relics, and the HRE player will only have 300 from the Ragnitz Cathedral. So your optimal target is 4 relics against an HRE player. And that's exactly where Beasty is heading. So he would be having more gold income from relics than HRE, which is absolutely spectacular. Also has 6 extra villagers, not something to be underestimated. Meanwhile, for 1puppypaw, he doesn't have a large resource bank, so fast Imperial isn't really a possibility. And you see, once again, the Shaman is gonna pick up the relic as 1puppypaw is closing the distance. He can't see the Shaman though. He might suspect that the opponent is about to pick up the relic, as right now he's just working towards saving that prelate. But as you see, the relic has already been garrisoned, and ultimately, this Shaman, or well, this is a prelate from Puppypaw, isn't going to be able to pick up the relic. The Knights will deal with the Man-at-Arms over here, although we got some Spearmen coming in as well for Beasty to push this away. But the damage has been done. This prayer tent has 4 relics inside, and there is no way for Puppypaw to ungarrison those other than burning down that building, but that's gonna be insanely difficult. Looks like we're gonna have a clash in the middle. Landsknecht also getting some beautiful hits in here. These guys can do a tremendous amount of damage, so if you have something that absorbs damage alongside them, like those Men-at-Arms, they can actually work very well against the Spearmen, but the numbers advantage are on the side of Beasty, and Beasty is going to get rid of all of those forces in the middle. HRE Men-at-Arms not having maces or two-handed weapons either, so it is going to be rather easy for those Mongol Men-at-Arms to take good fights against them. If the HRE player had either maces or two-handed weapons, ideally both, then he would be able to take down those forces quite easily. Now, we got some knights coming in from 1puppypaw, and there is apparently 1 villager down as a result. Nice raid from our red player. Keep in mind that Mongols not being able to vol leaves them exposed to aggression coming from these openings up south or up north. But of course, with the Spearmen being affected by the M speed network, they actually are pretty effective when it comes to catching up to these knights. You see 1.44 movement speed as opposed to 1.62, and Beast is assembling a fairly large force in the middle, utilizing that advanced siege upgrade from the Mongols to make siege weapons on the battlefield. One of the changes in the February patch was that the siege weapons are now much slower, so it's going to take a little more time to crawl up this hill here, but now the walls are being taken down. Puppypaw is going to have to react to this one with some Springolds. The prayer tent is still out there, so it looks like it's not going to get moved anytime soon, as on the north we have some walls coming up for Puppypaw to roll in that hunt. That is going to give him some extra safety against the raids, but there is no intention from Beasty to raid him. Instead, he's coming in with a push in the middle. Mangonel's getting a couple of volleys out here. If there was a villager, you could just chop this tree down and run past it. But with so much Man-at-Arms and Mangonels out here, you can also take these walls down without any problems. There isn't really a ton of units out here. For 1puppypaw, that 1 knight is also being taken down. We got the tower with Springolden placements on it for Beasty. All the walls are burning, and at this point, looking at the army numbers for 1puppypaw, he has to be disappointed. It's only at 12. Most of the forces are Landsknechte, and we also have a couple of knights over here. But Landsknechte are fairly fragile, so a single volley from those Mangonels could easily take them down. The Mangonels are actually going very deep into the base of Puppypaw. Bit of a mismicro there by Beasty. Now he's pulling them back, and he's ready to set them up. He's going to start shelling the farming eco. That's a very good way to open things up, because that's the heart and soul of the economy right now for Puppypaw. Man-at-Arms also joined the party over here. Landsknecht are queued up in quite large numbers, but you just don't have the production at this point. Meanwhile, we have all 3 sacred sites as well for Beasty, and Puppypaw is just going to tap out immediately. He didn't even wait to take the fight with the few forces he had, because it was all about the fact that his opponent has the sacred sites. His opponent has 4 relics as opposed to him having just 1, and at the end of the day, he knows exactly that his position is very grim. He's the one getting pushed. He's nowhere close to Imperial, so he can't just catch up with the Palace of Swabia, and he's just so low on relics. Not gonna lie, this relic trick here from Beasty is not something I've ever seen, but it's a very clever thing. I'm unsure if this is actually the intended behavior. I think it would be fun if this was the intended behavior, because, well, you could say it's a bug, you could also say it's a feature, so really, it would be fun because it would give a lot of depth to Mongols being a civilization that can sort of counter this type of play, where you just sit back, go fast castle, go for the relics. Mongols could counter that very nicely by just sort of having that traveling shop, picking up all the relics. With that, Beasty is in the grand finals, and he's going to be facing off in a best of 5 against the winner of the other semifinals.